Okay, hello Cloud Gurus, how y'all doing? I'm Scott Pletcher back with another carefully curated selection of only the finest AWS news nuggets. .NET developers get some deployment love, GuardDuty gets smarter about watching over our S3 buckets, and we can now use IAM roles anywhere, sort of. This is AWS This Week. We've long been able to assign IAM roles to services like EC2 and Lambda, which is way more secure and efficient than doling out access keys and secrets. With a recent announcement named IAM Roles Anywhere, we can now use that same concept for virtually any on-prem servers, containers, or other non-AWS compute platforms. AWS Roles Anywhere uses a public key infrastructure concept with X.509 certificates to enable your on-prem platforms to request temporary AWS credentials and assume a given role's abilities. You can use your own in-house certificate authority or stand up a new one on AWS via their certificate manager service. And just like any other CA, you can revoke issued certificates if you suspect they've been compromised or are no longer needed. This definitely seems like a better way than trying to issue, manage, and rotate access keys and secrets, especially at scale. Good news for all those .NET developers out there looking to dive into the AWS pool. AWS has announced the general availability of a new and improved deployment experience for .NET applications. The AWS Toolkit for Visual Studio contains a Publish to AWS wizard to help walk .NET developers who may be new to AWS through the various deployment options. The toolkit can provide compute recommendations, auto-generate Docker files, and package everything up for deployment, among other features. It even supports deploying Blazor WebAssembly apps to S3 with CloudFront as the CDN. For those command line fans, the same capabilities are available via the AWS Deploy tool for .NET. And if you dream up a new feature, AWS is actively encouraging developers to submit new feature requests in the GitHub repo for the project. We've become so accustomed to data exposures due to misconfigured S3 buckets that they barely make the news now. Just last week, an S3 bucket belonging to a local city government in the Philippines exposed the personal information of 300,000 citizens through such a misconfiguration. Well, along with all the existing "are you really sure you want to do this" messages already in place for S3, AWS has announced that GuardDuty has added some more machine learning smarts to help monitor our S3 buckets for shady access. When customers enable GuardDuty S3 protection, those learned machines hop to attention and carefully watch all the S3 API activity within that account. We still have good old CloudTrail as our eye in the sky watching over everything, but this new GuardDuty feature can provide more context to all those S3 API calls, sifting through all the perfectly normal access to find what activity might be suspicious. And before we go, AWS has received its share of industry awards over the years, but this week might be one of the more special ones. AWS has been awarded the Ukraine Peace Prize by President Volodymyr Zelensky for their part in supporting his country during the ongoing conflict with Russia. In a tweet on July 6th, Ukraine's digital transformation minister Mikhail Fedorov said, "Amazon AWS literally saved our digital infrastructure. State registries and critical databases migrated to AWS cloud environment." AWS joins Microsoft, Google, and Oracle as fellow recipients of the award for their efforts in helping support the country's infrastructure, counteract cyber attacks, and keep critical government systems running. And that, my friends, is just about all the AWS news that's fit to print this week. Stay safe, take care of one another, and keep being awesome, Cloud Gurus.